Logical morning, everyone. Welcome to Vidhigya presents the Hindu newspaper analysis. Today's session will have following segments. First, overview of today's newspaper, must know topics and explanation. And in third, quiz time with 5 important questions. So this is what we will discuss in today's newspaper. So this is the newspaper and we will see what are the important topics. First is government bans new Chinese mobile app. So government has banned 54 new Chinese mobile app and government has cited the reason for this is national security, and under 69A of IT Act, these Chinese apps are banned. So you have to remember that the ground for this is national security and section 69A of IT Act 2000. Another important topic for today's discussion is Rajasthan to begin river sand mining. So in this topic, you have to know what is environment impact assessment. That's all important for your exam perspective. So environment impact assessment is an impact assessment of a development activity. So before any development project is being carried out, an environment impact assessment is carried out to assess what will be the impact, and if the benefits are more than the losses, then the activities can be proceeded. And in the environment impact assessment, we also see what the mitigation, alternate plan, and through which methods we can mitigate the losses so as to ensure the viability of the economic system, and so the ecology is maintained. So the purpose of environment impact assessment is of sustainable development. So this is important from this topic. Another topic is ISRO puts 3 satellites in orbit aboard PSLV C-52. So in this topic, we will discuss that this is the first ISRO mission in the year 2022. We'll discuss the launch vehicle that is being used by ISRO, and then we will also discuss the satellites that are launched by the ISRO. Now the another topic is IISc Bangalore gets largest donation of rupees 425 crore. So this is the largest donation received by IISc Bangalore. We need to know the purpose why this donation was made and what will be the use of this donation. So this donation will be used to build a 800-bed multi-speciality hospital on campus. So IISc linked a partnership with philanthropists Shushmita and Subroto Bagchi and Radha and NS Parthasarthi. So this is the largest private private donation that IISc got, and it is of 425 crore. The objective is to build 800-bed multi-speciality hospital on campus. So you have to remember this. Now another topic is zooming in on the potential of India's geospatial sector. So this topic is in the news because last year the government has relaxed the norm for geospatial sector. So now more private players can enter into the fray. What will happen? So this will like when more private players are there, then the geospatial sector will broaden, and many new players will come and will provide data services, will provide the mapping services to the public. So currently there are only limited players which are providing these services, and when more players will be there, the data and the services can be better, and it can be better utilized by the digital platform so as to make things easier for the digital platform and for the public as well. So this is important from this topic. You do not have to go into detail about this topic. Now, another important topic for today's discussion is incorrect diagnosis and wrong remedy. This topic is related to the proposed amendment in the IS cadre rule. So in this topic, we will discuss why why government is proposing an amendment and what are the reasons behind it and what can be done. What is the future course of action? Another important topic is do not make irresponsible remarks on border issues, China. So we have discussed yesterday that India, USA, Japan, and Australia, the 4 members of Quad met in Melbourne and to discuss various aspects. Or in that meeting only, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar remarked about the China China has not been following the agreement signed between India and China on the border management issue. So China has said, in response to this, China said that this is an irresponsible remark on border issue, and China is very much committed to adhere to the agreement signed between India and China to resolve the border dispute. And these agreement we discussed in yesterday's session, that there is three agreement. We discussed that agreement of 1993, agreement of 1996, and 2013. Now, another important topic is Ball in West's court now, says Iran about nuclear deal talk. So in this topic, we will discuss what is Iran's nuclear deal and what is the current situation and how this Iran's nuclear deal how this Iran nuclear deal will impact India. So these three things we will discuss in detail. And then another important article is LIC's road to the IPO. So in this topic, we will discuss why government is going for IPO of LIC and what are the concerns of the policy holder and what is the future course of action and what better can be done. So this is all in today's newspaper for the discussion. So important topics for discussion: LIC's road to IPO, then Ball in West Court now, says Iran about nuclear deal. Incorrect diagnosis, wrong remedy. ISRO puts 3 satellites into orbit aboard PSLV C-52. So the first topic is LIC's road to IPO. So in this topic, we'll discuss why this topic is in news, how LIC makes profit, why IPO is worrying for policy holders, implications of IPO, and then the suggestions. So why this topic is in news? The government which owns, so government in LIC, government is 100% shareholder. Government is 100% shareholder. So government is planning to offload 5% of its stake, 5%. So still government will have 95% and all the proceeds from the IPO will go towards meeting the government's disinvestment target of financial year 2022. So the proceeds that will come from IPO will go to government's investment target as planned for financial year 2022. And the sale is expected to go up to at least 60,000 crore. So you have to remember that 5% stake, 5% stake is being offloaded by government, 5% only. So this you have to remember that 5% and it will go to disinvestment proceeds. Now, how LIC makes profit? So there is a one way, by selling. Number two, that premium that is collected, is invested into government, into different stocks, into stocks of different company, into government bonds and other investment products. And after investing, the LIC get some profit from this investment. So when the LIC invests in different product and in government bond, it gets some profit in return. And LIC also redistributes most of its profits back to policyholder in the form of bonuses. So after this when this premium is collected and other surplus, so there are LIC invest two things, that is premium and surplus. So what is surplus here? For example, for a financial year, the LIC has given the insurance policy of rupees 10,000, let's say, and now they have to only disburse only 8,000 to the policyholder as their claim. So this 2,000 is surplus and the premium that is there. So all this is invested in other stocks and the government bonds and other stocks and government bonds. So LIC receives profit from them, and this profit is then given to policyholder. This profit is given to policyholder as bonus. So this is how LIC makes its profit and how LIC distributes its profit to policyholder. So in fact, LIC currently pays out just 5% of its profit to the sole shareholder, the government. So out of this profit that LIC gets, only 5% is given to government, and rest 95 is distributed to policyholders. The remaining 95 of the profit is either reinvested back into the company or distributed to policyholder as bonuses. So it depends on the situation. Either LIC reinvests or distributes it as a bonus to policyholder. So why IPO is worrying for the policyholder? So the government, which wants to sell 5% of its stake in LIC to the public, has recognized that the way LIC distributes its profit can turn out to be problem in attracting a lot of investors. So whatever profit LIC earns, it distributes to policyholder. So because the profit is given to the policyholder in the name of bonus, so the shareholder will hesitate. Shareholders, or you can say prospective shareholders, or the investors, you can say investors will hesitate in investing, will hesitate because they will get low return, because they will get low return because the profit is being distributed as bonus to policyholder. So the profit going to policyholders. Investors who buy share of LIC would want a larger share of profits earned by LIC each year if they are to purchase the shares offered by the government at a price decided by government. So if investor want to invest in the LIC, so they want a larger chunk of the profit which LIC gets from investing and from surplus. So if they do not get the larger chunk of the profit, they will be hesitated to invest in LIC. All this means that share of profit that is distributed to policyholders is likely to drop as the government tries to sell its stake in LIC at best. So when the private investors will come, so they want more share in the profit, more share in profit. So less will be available. Less will be available to distribute as bonus. To distribute as bonus to policyholder. So this is the major concern of policyholders, that they will not get much bonus and much of the profit will go to investors. So the implications of IPO: policyholders may likely reconsider their investment in LIC's product as the percentage of LIC's profit redistributed to them drops going forward, thus affecting their return. So for example, if they are getting 100 rupees as bonus, but after let's say this uh, sale of the IPO, or IPO of the LIC, now their profit will reduce. The profit that will get as bonus will reduce to 60 or 50. So their profit is diminishing, and because of this they might likely to reconsider to shift from LIC to other agency. So this is the implication of IPO. So now there has been counter argument is this, that supporters of IPO argue that the hit to policyholder return may be weighed against the benefits of greater private participation in management of LIC's asset. LIC parks most of its capital in government bonds, and this money can be better used in other ways that yield higher return and also help the economy. This higher return can even trickle down to policyholder if greater competition is correct in the industry. So what the supporters of IPO is saying, that for example, when private investors come, they will bring private management, which is more efficient, So the premium and the surplus, premium plus surplus will be better invested in other stocks. So more profit can be generated. More profit. For example, with the same amount, the LIC management is earning 100 rupees profit, and let's say if the private shareholders come, with the private management on the same amount, they are earning 150 profit. So this means that the trickle down will also go to policyholder, and they might not see diminishes in the bonus. So this is what the supporters of IPO are saying. So in this topic, we have discussed that government is selling 5% of its stake, in IPO, how profits are earned, and then we see concerns of profit holder, concerns and suggestions, that how private, in suggestions we discuss how private management can can get better profits on the investment, and this profit can be better utilized in the economy, as well as more amount can, as well as the profit can be distributed to the shareholder also and to the policy holder, so that they might not see diminished. So this will also resolve the concerns of the policy holders. Now the second topic is ball in West courts now, says Iran about nuclear deal talk. So in this topic, we will discuss what is Iran's nuclear deal, what is joint comprehensive plan of action, and the recently happening Vienna talks, that the Vienna talks are going on. So we will discuss these three things. So Iran nuclear deal. So in the year 2015, nuclear deal, also known as joint comprehensive plan of action, was signed, and the joint comprehensive plan of action was the result of prolonged negotiations from 2013 and 2015 between Iran and P5+1. So JCPOA involves 7 countries. So Iran, then P5, that is China, USA, Russia, then you have France, and then we have UK. So these are P5 countries. P5 countries are permanent members of UNSC. Permanent members of UNSC. UNSC is United Nations Security Council, and it is a principal organ of United Nations. Objective of UNSC is to maintain international peace and security. And the 7th country is Germany. So now we'll discuss a little bit about UNSC. So UNSC has 15 members, 5 permanent countries that we have discussed, P5, and then 10 non-permanent. See, these non-permanent are selected for a period of 2 years, and the selection is based on regional basis. So countries from every region represent the UNSC. So this is JCPO, the countries in JCPO. We have discussed UNSC, we have discussed P5, and we have discussed about permanent, non-permanent member of UNSC. So under the deal, Tehran agreed. Tehran is Iran's capital, agreed to significantly cut its storage of centrifuge. Centrifuge is used for nuclear enrichment. It is used for device used for nuclear enrichment. Not nuclear, sorry, uranium enrichment. Uranium enrichment. Enriched uranium and heavy water, all key components for nuclear weapons. So this centrifuge, uranium and heavy water, all key components for these are all used for nuclear weapon. So under this deal, Tehran agreed to significantly cuts. So under this, Tehran has agreed that we will significantly cut on the centrifuges and enriching of uranium and heavy water, and all these are important for building nuclear weapon. So, and Iran also said that it will make its nuclear program more transparent. So the deal was signed in JCPOA in 2015. In 2015, and the Trump USA pulled out of accord in 2018. And he opted for a maximum pressure campaign by imposing sanction and other tough action. So after pulling out, USA imposed economic sanctions on Iran. Economic sanctions on Iran, saying that USA gave the reason that Iran is building nuclear weapons, and Iran's nuclear program is not transparent. So giving this reason, USA backed out from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action deal, which was signed in 2015. So after USA pulled out of this, Iran responded by intensifying its enrichment of uranium and building of centrifuge, while maintaining its insistence that its nuclear development was for civilian and non-military purpose. So Iran has responded after USA withdraw from this agreement that Iran is enriching its uranium not for military purposes but for the development of civilian purposes, for example nuclear energy. So Iran said, we are not making a nuclear weapon. This enrichment of uranium is done only for civilian purposes. Now Vienna talks. We'll discuss what is Vienna talk. It is an ongoing talk between Iran and P5 plus Germany. So we have discussed P5 countries: USA, China, France, Russia, UK. The Vienna talks are focused on lifting crippling economic sanctions Trump imposed on Iran. So the objective is that USA will lift economic sanctions, which USA imposed in 2018 on Iran. It also focuses on bringing Iran back to its compliance after it responded by suspending several of its commitments. So the deal also focuses that Iran will also come back to its commitment and will not go for more uranium enrichment, so that cannot be used for making nuclear weapons. So first objective is to remove economic sanctions. Now Iran's commitment that uranium not for nuclear weapon, and Iran has demanded that US first lift all the sanctions imposed by Trump in 2018, which include a sweeping unilateral ban in its oil export. So US has also banned Iran's oil export before it falls back in line with the obligation it suspended. And US has demanded movement from Tehran in return. So the basic ongoing talk between them is that USA will remove the sanctions on the Iran, and Iran will come back to its commitment that it will not enrich uranium for nuclear purposes, and it will make its nuclear program transparent. And the focus of the nuclear program is only for civilian purposes, that is to make nuclear energy. So this is all from this topic. And now the importance for India, the importance for India for of Vienna talks. So this is Iran. Here we have this area, we have Chabar port, and here we have Gwadar port. So what happens? So this is Chabar port, this is Gwadar port. So what China is doing, China is making in maritime shift, and it is utilizing Pakistan's Gwadar port to surround India in the Indian Ocean. And also what is important, why it is important for India, why Iran is important for India, of course for oil and for strategic purposes, but India wants to access Central Asian market. This is Central Asia market: Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. So these are the Central Asian countries, and through Central Asia country, India wants to reach to Russia and to European countries, because as of now, India has to go to Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, then Gulf of Aden. India has to take this route to go to Europe and then to Russia. So this route is long. So India wants to take that from here. India will go to Iran. Then from Iran, it will go to Afghanistan, and then it will enter to Central Asia, then to Russia. So this is what, and India also wants to counter China at Gwadar port. China at Gwadar port by making a port at Iran's Chabar port, which port can be utilized by India. So importance for India. So I've told you why Iran is important for India and why Chabar port is important for India. The purpose is to counter China's naval presence and to reach to Central Asian's market. So India's interest in Chabar port for its regional connectivity. Regional connectivity, I've told you, to Central Asia. And why Central Asia is important? Central Asia importance lies in it's a place for investment for India's energy security, because they have lots of oil and gas. It will help India to neutralize the Chinese presence in Gwadar Port, Pakistan. So China is present in here, Gwadar Port, Pakistan. And when India is present here, India has a port here. So it will neutralize China's presence in Gwadar Port. And restoration of ties between USA and Iran will help India to procure cheap Iranian oil and aid in energy security. So when the economic sanctions are removed, India can buy the oil from Iran at a cheaper price, and it will resolve India's energy security issue and the inflation issue also. So this is important from this topic we have discussed. So in this topic, we have discussed JCPOA member, P5, we have discussed UNSC, we have discussed Vienna talk. Sorry, I'll write it here. So in this topic, we have discussed Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. We have discussed UNSC. We have discussed P5. Then we have discussed Vienna talks. And we have discussed implications for India. So for your CLAT examination, You have to remember the members in the JCPOA when it was signed. UNSC, you have to remember that it has 15 members, 5 permanent, 10 non-permanent, and non-permanent are selected for a basis for a period of 2 years. Then you have to remember P5 countries, which are US, China, Russia, France, UK. Then you have to remember that Vienna talk is related to Iran's nuclear deal, and then the implications for India. So this is all from this topic. Now the third topic we'll discuss incorrect diagnosis, wrong remedy. So in this we'll discuss the proposed IAS Cadre Rules Amendment, why this amendment, and suggestions. So the amendment proposed to Rule 6.1. So first thing you have to remember that Rule 6 Clause 1 of IAS Cadre Rule 1954 is proposed to be amended. Is proposed for amendment. So you have to remember Rule 6 Clause 1 and 1954. And this IAS Cadre Rule was enacted 1954. And what is the proposed amendment? Seeks to empower the central government to unilaterally order the central deputation of IAS officers without the consent of the state governments or the officers concerned have provoked controversy. So what happens? So for the working of central government or the ministries, the officers are impaneled from state IAS cadre. So these officers are brought to the central government, a central ministry, and then they work there on deputation. So earlier the rule was that center will ask state, and then state will send, and state will send. And with this proposed amendment, now in case state does not want to send, then the will of the center will prevail. Centers will be imposed on state. So even if the state does not want to send IAS officer for the central deputation, the central government still has upper hand, and central government can ask the state to send the IAS officer because the will of center will prevail. So this is the change. Earlier there was a process that the center will ask state and state will send, and if state does not want send, then center cannot get. But now central has changed. Central is proposing to change that. Even if state does not want send, central government has the power to get the IAS officer to the central government to work on deputation. The center has justified them on the ground that the states are not meeting their central deputation reserve. So there is a central deputation reserve obligation wherein the state has to send certain IAS officers to center to work in the central government and ministry. And since states are not meeting these obligations, due to which the center is suffering from an acute shortage of mid-level IAS officer. So when the center is saying that states not fulfilling CDR obligations, and because of which there is a shortage of mid-level officers, especially deputy secretary and directors, to work for the central government. So this is the reason central government is giving. So why shortage of officer? So why there is a shortage of officer? So first thing is 1990s India went for LPG reforms. LPG reform, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So it was thought that they might not need more government officers. Therefore, the number of recruits decreased. But this did not work out because government still need large number of IAS officers. The second is lateral cadre review. A proposed proper cadre review in all states will release many IAS officers from non-strategic posts and reduce the sort. So what happens in state? There are various positions. For example, there are 4 positions, and these 2 are not important. These 2. So what state does? So state says these are. So state also put all these 4 under cadre services. So for cadre services, they employ IAS officers. So central government says they have to make a review that those which are not strategic The shortage is because those posts which are not strategic should not be filled by the IS cadre, IS people. So when this will happen, the IS people will be relieved, and these extra number of IS officers can go to central government for deputation. So this is the another reason that there is a lackadaisical cadre review. So this has to be seen, and central and state government can work together to review this system. The third cause is the complete non-utilization by center of the services of officers who are appointed to the IAS by promotion or selection from the state civil services. So there are two routes for IAS. So one you take UPSC exam and become IAS directly, or other is you give state civil services exam, and then later on you will be promoted to IAS officer. So the article says that the center does not utilize this route. Center does not utilize this rule, and center utilize only this route. So because of this, there is a lack of IS officers. So when central government will utilize this route also, they will have more number of officers for their working. The fourth cause is the numerous administrative barriers to central deputation imposed by. So it says that on central deputation, there are many restrictions imposed by central in the form of highly restrictive conditions, perverse incentives, annual lapsing of offers list, long debarment. So there are many restrictions placed by central government when officers come to central deputation, and because of which many officers do not want to go for central deputation. So there are four reasons we have discussed: LPG reforms, cadre review issue, the other route of state civil services which are promoted to IS can be utilized, and central government has to review its restrictions so that more people can be incentivized and more IS officers are willing to go to central for deputation. Now the article gave two suggestions. The one is it should be made mandatory. It should be made mandatory for directly recruited officers. So we have discussed two routes. One is directly recruited, and the other one is through state civil services. And then later on, they went on to promotion and becomes IS officer. So mandatory recruited officer to serve at least 3 years on central deputation between 9 and 25 years of service. So for them, it is recommended the 3 year services when they are in service between 9 to 25 years. So during their after 9 years of services and before 25 years of services, in between they have to mandatorily serve 3 year on central deputation. So this is one suggestion. Also says their promotion to principal secretary grade in their state cadre usually after 25 years should be subject to their completing this mandatory period of central deputation. So it says for further promotion of directly recruited officers, it has to be, the government should make it mandatory. If you want further promotion to the rank of principal secretary or more, you need to serve 3 years on central deputation between 9 to 25 years of your service. So this is one. Second, the central should directly choose its joint secretaries, additional secretaries, and secretaries from IAS officers on offer who are officiating in equivalent grades in state government through a process of selection. So the article says the current process of selection is quite opaque. It is not very transparent. So that has to be made transparent. And after giving certain, after reducing the restrictions and after making it a more transparent process, those state IS officers which are willing to come to serve to the center should be officiated for these posts, and then this will also resolve center's problem of shortage of IS officers. There are two suggestions. One is this, we have discussed both. In this mandatory service between 9 years to 25 year service of 3 years to go for further promotion, and then this says central should remove its restrictions, large restrictions, and should make the process more transparent, and should employ the willing IS officers from the state to serve in center. So these are the suggestions. Another suggestion is the shortfall in CDR obligation, that is central deputation reserve obligation, is not a problem that cabinet secretary cannot solve by having a constructive dialogue with the all chief secretaries of PM, or the PM cannot solve by holding a meeting with the chief minister. So it says that amendment is not necessary. Amendment is not necessary. The problem of CDR can be resolved by consultative process. And the article also mentions Article 263, that is interstate council. In this interstate council, the members of central government is chaired by PM. The members of central government and state governments are present, And with the consultative and collaborative process, the solutions can be proposed and things can be resolved. So there is no need to go to this amendment route, because then the state government, if you propose this route and you will say that we need these many IAS officers from your cadre, the state government will take another route, that they will say the performance of these IAS officers are not good, so you do not take them for the central government services. So this approach can be taken by state. So what is much better solution is that central government and state government come together and discuss a solution that what needs to be done. And also it will affect the state's autonomy. This amendment will affect the state's autonomy. So, and the more power will go to central. And we have discussed that there is a one-sided federalism, that the central government is getting more and more power. So it will affect the federal structure also. So these are the suggestions. Now the another article is ISRO puts 3 satellites into orbit aboard PSLV C-52. So we'll discuss about this mission, the vehicle used for the launch, and about the satellites launched. So ISRO's maiden launch of 2022. This is the first launch of the year 2022. Remember the date, 14th Feb. Remember the date. This is the first under its new chairman. So remember who is the new chairman of ISRO. New chairman is S. Somanath. Before that, you have to remember K. Shivan. So you have to remember this. And this is the first mission. It was launched from the first launch pad of Satish Dhawan Space Center, Sriharikota. So remember this location. It is in Sriharikota, and the name of launch pad is Satish Dhawan Space Center. Now we'll discuss vehicle launch for you. So 2 types of vehicles are currently used by ISRO. One is PSLV, another one is GSLV. So we'll discuss them. The vehicle used for launch is PSLV C-52. So this is PSLV. So in GSLV we have 2 variants, GSLV MK2, and this is GSLV MK3. So for this, PSLV is used. So PSLV's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle is used for launching remote sensing and Earth observation satellite in low Earth orbit. So PSLV, remote sensing and Earth observation satellite. And GSLV is used for communication satellite, for launching communication satellites. Another difference between PSLV and GSLV, though we have discussed in one of the series of Explain, you can go and watch that, but for your reference, I'll again tell you that PSLV is a 4-stage, GSLV is a 3-stage. So in this first and third stage, it used solid, and in second and fourth, liquid. And in this 3 stages, solid, liquid, and cryogenic. Other difference is PSLV is low lift of mass up to 750 kg. PSLV can take up to 750 kg and lesser altitude of 600 to 900 kilometer. And it can take up to 750 kg of payload to sun synchronous polar orbit to 600 kilometer. So PSLV, the weight it can take is 1750 to low Earth orbit to 600 to 900 kilometer. When it comes to GSLV, can go to up to 36,000 kilometer and 2500 kg. So this is the difference. So difference I have told you that PSLV is used for remote sensing and Earth launching remote sensing and Earth observation satellite. GSLV for communication satellite. In PSLV we have this. This is GSLV MK2, MK3. PSLV have 4-stage, first and 3 solid, second and fourth liquid. And then GSLV we have 3-stage, solid, liquid, cryogenic. Then PSLV we have discussed, it can take 750 and 600 to 900 kilometers, and GSLV 36,000 kilometer and weight up to 2500 kg. So now we'll discuss the satellites that are launched by ISRO. The ISRO has launched 3 satellites. And these are Earth Observation Satellite 4, INS 2TD, and Inspire Sat-1. So it's a radar imaging satellite, Earth observation satellite. This is designed to provide. It is designed to provide high quality images in all weather conditions for applications such as agri, forestry, plantation, food, mapping, soil, moisture, and hydrology. So this satellite is launched to monitor weather conditions which can be useful for agriculture, for forestry, for plantation. So this is the purpose of this satellite. It is a observation, Earth observation satellite. So you have to remember, first satellite is Earth observation satellite, and the purpose is to monitor the weather conditions by by capturing high quality images, and this can be used in agriculture, plantation, food mapping, soil moisture. So this is all for EOS-04. Now the second satellite that is launched, INS-2D. It is a precursor of India-Bhutan joint satellite. So earlier India-Bhutan joint satellite was launched, India-Bhutan, and now again a new satellite is launched. It is known as INS-2TD. So you have to remember that INS-2TD is a precursor of INS-2B, and INS-2B is a joint satellite for India and Bhutan. INS-2B for India and Bhutan. This is also for India and Bhutan. And what is the purpose? What is the use of this satellite? Will assess land and water surface, temperature, delineation of crop and forest, and thermal inertia. So it is also for monitoring various things like land and water surface temperature. It will monitor that, delineation of crops and forest, and thermal inertia. So you do not have to remember that the uses of this, though broadly you just know that what are the uses of this Earth observation satellite and this satellite, but you have to remember the three satellites that are launched by ISRO and the launch vehicle. So, and the third one is Inspire Sat-1, is a student satellite from Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology in association with University of Colorado, and is aimed at improving the understanding of ionosphere dynamics and sun's coronal heating process. So this satellite was launched, and the satellite is a collaboration between Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology and University of Colorado, and the aim of this satellite is to better understand of ionosphere dynamics and sun's coronal heating process. So in this topic, you have to remember this is the first mission of 2020. New chairman S. Somnath. Earlier, K. Shivan was there. Then you have to remember it is used by PSLV C52. Then we have discussed PSLV and GSLV differences. And then we have discussed the three satellites that are EOS-04, INS-2TD, and Inspire. So we have also discussed the uses of these satellites. So this is all you have to remember for your CLAT examination. Now it's time for G quiz. So which of the following country was not part of JCPO negotiations? The correct option is India. So in JCPO negotiations, we have discussed countries. There are 7 countries: Iran, US, UK, China, Russia, France, and Germany. These 5 I have told you are P5 countries, that is permanent member of UNSC. So the next question is, PSLV launch vehicle has how many stages? Your options are 4, 2, 3, 1. The correct option is answer A, that is 4. So we have discussed PSLV and GSLV. PSLV, 4 stages, 1 and 3 uses solid fuel, 2 and 4 uses liquid fuel. And GSLV, we have discussed 3 stages, 1, 2, 3, it's a solid, liquid, cryogenic. So that's all you have to remember. Now, which of the following IS Cadre rule is proposed to be amended? Your options are Rule 6.1, Rule 6.2, Rule 6.3, Rule 6.4. The correct option is Rule 6.1. And what is the proposed amendment? That now center will have unilateral power. Central will have unilateral power to get IS from state for central deputation. Earlier, this power, central did not have this power, and if state wants to send the IS officer to deputation, then state can send, otherwise center cannot compel. But now center has this unilateral power. After the proposed amendment, center will have this unilateral power to get IS officer to the central government. Question 4. Which of the following satellite is the precursor to the India-Bhutan joint satellite INS-2B and will assess land and water surface temperature, delineation of crop and forest and thermal inertia? So the correct option is this. So we have discussed the 3 satellite. It will be used for monitoring weather conditions, which will be used for agroforestry, forestry, plantation and all. This will be used for mapping land and surface temperature, thermal inertia, and this is a Indian Institute of Space and Technology and US Colorado University related to sun's coronal activity. So this is we have discussed the functions of these 3 satellites, and also you have to remember that 3 satellites launched. First mission, this is first mission, PSLV C52 use. So this is all for this topic. And the last question is, which of the following was the objective of JCPO agreement? Your options are: US will remove sanctions on Iran. Iran will make its nuclear activities transparent, both A and B, none of the above. The correct option is A. So now you have to remember JCPO signed in 2015 between P5, Germany and Iran. US backed out of the deal in 2018, imposing sanctions, and now Vienna talks. To again, objective is to remove sanctions, and that Iran will make its nuclear program transparent. So this is all you have to remember. So that's all for the session. Stay logical with Vidhigya, your best pal at CLAT Preps. Thank you.